So Destiny, I wanted to ask you this, man. You've stated in the past that I guess that the MAGA right is notorious for violence. You've said this, you called them degenerates, etc. That Trump kind of insinuates a lot of the rhetoric and the actions of Trump supporters. Am I more or less correct on that?
I don't usually criticize him for violence. I think I think the tendency, I mean, especially since the BLM stuff, there's more, at least cumulatively, violence for left-leaning people. But I would also kind of expect that right now, given the state of affairs. So.
Oh, okay. So, wait, when you say that you expect the violence from the left on the state of affairs,
as in, like, if you have like a certain system where people feel like somebody is completely and totally out of line, and that person is using the power of the executive to be totally out of line. Well, they're like, what would conservatives even enact violence about? They would have nothing to protest. They'd have nothing to riot over. I imagine it would be probably more left-leaning people that would be rioting.
That would be rioting?
Yeah.
So, like, for example, like the Tesla burnings that were happening, it was all premeditated. They had the Doge, DogeChase.com or something like that kind of premeditated all that. So, like, my thing is that when I look at the Trump election and how he got elected, and maybe I can ask you this, I think one of the reasons that Trump got elected in the first place was because when you say, like, for example, with your other opponent here, when you say the MAGA right is a cult, I'm thinking in my head that the Democratic Party at this point is actually a cult as well, regardless of what it is.
Now, who's our cult leader?
Oh, well, here's the thing. I don't know who the cult leader is, but it's the Democratic Party as a whole, right? No, well, here's the thing. It could be a cult without it because, like, for example, vote blue no matter who. You've heard that phrase, right? The anti-Trump tour, like we're on right now. It's a cult that's against Trump no matter what, right? So we've seen this to where Elon Musk at one point had the Tesla vehicles that a lot of left-wing people were buying. Then, of course, Elon Musk wasn't necessarily supporting Trump at first. He was a Ron DeSantis guy, etc. Then he turned to Trump. Then we saw that after he supported Trump and he donated it to him, we saw a lot of the left wing kind of burn down Teslas and be violent about this, right?
Well, I don't really think that was the only thing he did. I think it was also the fact that he joined Trump as an unelected bureaucrat and began unilaterally shuttering federally approved agencies in the government while, like, engaged in the most insane over-the-top rhetoric on X.
What's the most insane over-the-top?
Like constantly calling for judges to be impeached or imprisoned, or saying that...
Which judges? I'm not too...
The recent judge that just made a ruling related to... basically anytime a new TRO gets issued, I think that he's done it for the Zini lawyer. I think he's done it for Brasberg. But he tweets about judges.
So he wanted to get them removed because
he doesn't like it when they issue a TRO against Trump. But wait, just real quick, you're not familiar with Elon engaging in any like anti-judicial rhetoric on X?
I know Elon Musk has stated that he doesn't like these individuals, which is fair enough. He has his opinion, right?
But it's not just his opinion, right? He's like the richest man in the world. Who's
sure, but you have an opinion too. Like, for example,
I'm not an elected official. I don't work in government.
Well, you have a huge influence when it comes to your audience, right?
Yeah, but I don't work in government.
Yeah, but what does that matter? Like, here's the thing.
Well, if I was part of the government and I was calling for another part of the government to be destroyed,
but I would make an argument that influencers and even actors, etc., actually have more influence on the public than even politicians.
Than most politicians.
And most politicians, yeah.
But why. Donald Trump, because he's a cult leader, probably not.
But even with you, I think you have more influence than on the public than most politicians.
Individual, yeah, that's probably true.
Probably true.
That's what most for sure, especially city council.
So that's what I'm saying. Like, when you say, well, I don't work in government, at the same time, I could say, yeah, but you have more influence on the public than most politicians. Right?
No, I agree. I was just pointing out why people would probably have such a visceral reaction to everything Elon Musk has done. I think it's super warranted that people would feel horrified by it.
Right. No, yeah, for sure. Okay, I get you there. But I wanted to shoot this back here. When you were stating that, when I was stating that one reason that I think that Donald Trump specifically won this election was also because I think that the left, like you admitted earlier, is notorious for violence, right? We had the BLM riots, the Chaz that happened, right, in Seattle, the Tesla burnings. So I think a lot of the people that voted for Trump was also noticing that the left is absolutely lunatics when it comes to this type of rhetoric. And Maxine Waters, even in 2016, when she was, when Trump won his first term, where she was saying, get in the face of MAGA supporters. When I was, because I'm from South Texas, I would wear a fucking MAGA hat at a bar, and I was getting attacked by people that didn't like that. I think this is what drove a lot of people towards Donald Trump to vote for him. Wouldn't you say?
It's possible. But
don't you think it's kind of a big deal, though?
No, because I think that they don't talk about any of the violence that their side is ever supporting, either explicitly or implicitly, at all points in time as well. So Like, how am I supposed to feel bad that people are complaining about Tesla dealerships being burned down, but then they're clapping when people are being deported without due process from this country? I have absolutely no sympathy. And the fact that they can keep doing this hand-wringing of like, the left is so bad and they won't disavow these people, even though the left has to disavow its own side all the time. When Biden...
I don't see any of the left doing that, though.
I don't know how much you're looking at.
Well, I watch your show.
Okay, well, Biden
example,
literally...
you didn't even disavow the assassination of Donald Trump, bro.
I wish. It was the assassination attempt, okay?
Oh, yeah, the assassination...
Just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Hey, but am I right there, Destiny? Come on, man. Come on, man.
Just jokes. So you can have a standard for my behavior. You can talk about whether my behavior is over the line or not, but I think it's very different when you compare the behavior of somebody in government versus me, who's like a pundit.
You're a guy that has more influence than politicians. That's my point.
Yeah, but it's a different type
and
of
the vast
influence.
majority.
It's a different type of influence, though, right?
What's the difference?
There's a different expectation for behavior for things that that I would have versus somebody who's part of the government. Would you agree, or do you think it's the same?
I would agree that your influence would actually affect people's behavior more so than some random person.
No, it's not. It's about the expectation of like behavior or what would be proper. So if I was an elected official and I was working in the executive branch, it means something a lot different for me to say I hate this judge than if I was just like a pundit and I was like I hate this judge. I think
right.
Those are so you can have a totally different standard expectation of behavior regardless of how many people you influence or not, just based on the role that you occupy.
Yeah. Well, I get you there, but like my point is that I think you have way more influence than the vast majority of politicians. So that's why I'm saying like when you shoot the rhetoric when Corey, fucking don't even remember the guy's last name, Corey something, I don't know, but he passed away and you were stating something and you doubled down on Pierce Morgan. You said, fuck Corey, fuck his supporters, etc. I think also with your rhetoric, when you were stating that stuff, I think that leaned a lot of people watching that sit and said, Destiny's a fucking psychopath. I don't want to vote for Kamala Harris or the Democratic Party.
Yeah, but at some point, it like, I don't want to change the diaper of a 25-year-old. Like, for somebody to go online and to be making like all of these jokes, as Dave Rubin had, and he was on that episode with me, about the guy the psychotic dude, that broke into Pelosi's house and was like, with a fucking hammer, was smacking this dude. It was insane and unhinged. And then again, to like have the tears whenever it happens on their side, I think I would rather be unhinged and force the conversation than have to live in this world where the left constantly has to apologize for all of its own stuff and the right pretends that nothing ever happens on their side. Because like the
opposite there.
What?
Yeah, I'm thinking the opposite there, Destiny. Like it's
Donald Trump came in and he pardoned every single J6er and nobody on the right cared.
Yeah, well, look, the thing, Joe Biden pardoned his entire family and like, what is it, 8,000 people before he left office.
So so two different things. The large swaths of people that were pardoned, that was like a technicality for commuting sentences.
Do you agree that Hunter Biden should have been pardoned?
Absolutely.
Really?
Yes, and I think that because he has no tact or political understanding whatsoever, Donald Trump proved it when Donald Trump complained on, I think it was an NBC interview, and he said, I can't go after any of the people in the J6 Select Committee because Biden pardoned them.
Well, yeah, that's true, though, right?
Yeah, but
it's not like he's lying in there. He can't go after them.
He wanted to go after them politically. There are no crimes here. He just wants to target, when we've seen this administration, would you agree, has engaged in the targeted lawfare.
I would say that even the Biden administration had the targeted lawfare against Donald Trump as well.
And give one example of that?
Okay, well, for example, what's her name? When the judge went after Donald Trump's real estate, right? He said his real estate over there in Florida,
Mar-a-Lago, yeah.
Yeah, that shit. It was worth $18 million, right? We can see from the papers that shit's worth at least $600 million. They're going after his real estate to kind of backtrack on him.
Well, yeah, but wait, what does that have to do with Biden?
Well, because it's targeted prosecution.
But it's not
because
Biden.
You asked me the question. Give me.
No, I asked you. Show me some
example of that.
Donald Trump is writing executive orders, literally targeting.
I'm answering your question though, Destiny. You asked me, give you an example of that.
Biden doing it.
Well, the Democratic Party. Remember, you guys are the vote blue no matter who party. You guys are the cult of that, right? It's not like you guys go after Donald Trump. When it comes to the Republican Party, it's kind of, I would say, probably 70-30, where it's like MAGA and then Republican, right? Your Nikki Haley's, Mike Pence, etc., the ones that don't support Donald Trump. So it's kind of more divided than the Democratic Party. You guys are a lot more united on that, right?
Donald Trump literally, ejected his entire...
When it comes to Trump, guys, everybody from the progressive side, from the liberals, all of you guys are anti-Trump. I mean, this is just a big...
but I mean, wouldn't that make sense if the guy is so divisive? And the Republicans are super pro-Trump. Like the approval rating...
You mean the MAGA Republicans?
No, I mean Republicans. I mean,
Like Nikki Haley's super pro-Trump?
yeah, they all support her
No,
now.
she's not, dude.
You can say
No,
that,
not
but
even to
Donald
that
Trump, the
degree.
only thing that was buoying his approval for so long was the fact that on the Republican side, literally no matter what he did, it was like 88%, 92%, 87%, 90%
Yeah.
approval. Like, yeah, it had a pretty wide support from the majority of the Republican Party.
No, yeah, for sure. But like, even
But just on the thing. So like, because I can think of several horrible like legal targeting things that Donald Trump has led, but can you think of anything that Biden or Biden's administration, so not a judge in Florida, but like something that Biden ordered? Because that judge could just be an asshole judge, right? It's not necessarily Biden on that.
well, that's what I'm saying. Like when it comes to the Democratic, I'll tell you this: Biden, of course, he was the face of the Democratic Party for 4 years, right?
Yeah.
You could say that. Also, the Democratic Party as a whole, that's what I'm saying. Where you guys are a lot more notorious for violence, and that's why I'm saying my point here is that a big reason why Donald Trump won that election, not only because of the assassination attempt, right, which you said you wish the bullet hit him, that would have been the best thing. Didn't happen, thank God.
I didn't say those words exactly, but
Well, something along those lines. I think you said it with Rob Noor or somebody along those lines. I can't remember exactly.
You got about a minute, Jake.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. But my point is that I think that with that type of rhetoric, along with, for example, you guys lying about Joe Biden's, mental health, right? That was another big one. Jake Tapper on
why do
CNN.
you assume that people lied about his health and weren't just either coping or?
Well, even well, that's my point here. Even Jake Tapper.
Wait, you can't say that's
Jake Tapper is literally writing a book about how he covered up, CNN covered up Joe Biden's.
If there was a coordinated
mental
effort to
health.
cover up Joe Biden's mental health, why did they let that debate happen?
Well, yeah, that's the thing.
Well, no, you can't just say that's
they
the
let
thing.
it
How?
happen.
That
Yes,
totally contradicts the entire narrative
This
you
is
gave.
why they let it happen specifically because they let it happen. They let him train for like what, a week or something like that by himself. They wanted to
What,
prep
like
him for that
200
because
times
they couldn't
gravity? What does that mean?
they can't avoid a debate.
Of course, Trump dodged the debate when he was running. What do you mean?
Yeah, well, Biden. That's the thing. They let Biden debate. He got totally smashed, right? But
I don't understand how if there was a whole coordinated effort to cover up Biden's senility, why would they ever let him
years
debate?
prior before they couldn't hold it up for so long. They let him debate. They had to do it eventually.
What? No, they didn't.
Yes, they did.
No, they didn't.
Well, then that's going to make them look bad. when
Didn't
it comes
Donald
to the
Trump
election.
avoid a second debate with Kamala? Didn't Donald Trump avoid debating any of the
He didn't.
Nikki
He didn't
Haley
need to-
or
he didn't need
DeSantis?
to debate Kamala, bro.
This is the all roads lead to
Well,
Rome
no,
thing,
it's
right?
not,
So he can
because-
do the
well,
exact
here's the
same
thing,
behavior you said that Biden couldn't get away with doing.
Well,
but-
Destiny, look at it like this, dude. You're a top tier debater. Why would you, unless you get something? In other words, debating me, you get nothing out of this, right? The only thing that gets something out of this debate is me, right? So when Trump is gonna debate Kamala for the second time, he gets nothing out of it. At that point, Joe Biden looks like a moron. The assassination attempt already happened. The only thing Donald Trump has to do is just fuck it. I don't care to debate Kamala because he feels he already has the debate in the
I
bag.
understand the
He doesn't need to do
political
that.
savvy that goes into this, the
yeah,
calculation, but I'm
because
just
you
saying
asked
that
why he avoided that second debate.
Yes, and you're giving
This
me
is
the
why.
logical
These are
reason,
tactics.
but when we look at Biden doing a debate, if he was truly being covered for by the entire Democratic establishment, then it stands to reason that they would find reasons for him not to do the debate.
Yeah, but they had to do it eventually, right?
No, they don't.
Yes, they do.
They can just say we don't do debates. He's too divisive.
Okay, and then they're gonna lose the election. This is why it's like
They lost
either
anyway,
have
no?
them- And yeah, they lost anyway, so for sure. So it didn't work. But that's what I'm saying. I think the Democratic Party probably should have got rid of Biden earlier, and then put in Kamala Harris. Which, by the way, nobody here voted for Kamala Harris to be the representation of the Democratic Party.
Sure, so
even
let's
though
say-
Trump is obviously the threat to democracy. There,
Well,
right?
because in 2020 he tried to make it so none of the votes mattered, and he could just have Pence say who won the election. I would say that's probably worse. The issue with the story, the narrative you're giving, is that like, how is it that the Democrats were all in lockstep? Like, there's two stories.
Okay.
Either people were genuinely torn on like, is he just old? Is he actually senile? What's going on? And they just kind of like kept it going, because why would you take out a person who just beat this guy in the last election? Why would you run somebody different and get rid of your incumbent advantage and get rid of a guy who already beat? Like that. That's a really
Probably
extraordinary thing to
because
do.
he has mental health
That's
issues.
fine, but like,
That would be
were
the
they genuinely confused about that, or was there a top-down plot to cover up how senile he was the entire time that went through all of the media and all of the presidency, but they weren't strong enough to just not have one debate?
Yeah, that's the thing. Well, here's the thing, Jake Tapper. And here's the thing: you want to paint the picture to where it's like, okay, they wanted to cover it up. Even Jake Tapper in CNN, who is writing a book about this called "The Cover Up" on Joe Biden's health.
Do you normally cite Jake Tapper on things you believe, or just in this one time?
Yeah, dude. Yeah, I watch CNN plenty of times, man. I watch.
Do you
CNN,
normally
I watch
cite
yourself,
CNN as a
etc.
credible source, as like a?
I could cite him at times. Yeah, sure. When the argument's here, I'm just saying Jake Tapper had inside information. Wouldn't you say that Jake Tapper has better information than you.
Without even reading the book, my guess is going to be what he's saying is that people saw Biden and they tried to give him favorable coverage because they weren't sure and they didn't want him to look bad, but not that they genuinely thought that it was like a lost cause and he was super senile and they were trying to hide that from the American public. Because if that was the case, they would have never had the debate. It's so obvious.
No, it's not obvious. Destiny. Here's the thing. When you have the entire...
Jake. Last thought.
Okay, yeah, just last thought on here. Destiny, thank you so much for the exchange. That's for sure. It was really good. But I will tell you this, guys. When it comes to the last election here, Donald Trump won this because of the fault of the Democratic Party. The assassination attempt, and then I'll even say Elon Musk even buying X did help Donald Trump in the long run, right? When it was Jack Dorsey, he got kicked out, etc. So that was kind of a thing that kind of helped out there. But I think the Democratic Party shot themselves in the foot, and this is why we have Donald Trump, and people want Donald Trump right now. So that's really what it is. Destiny, thank you so much, man.
Thank you again.